So this is the first in hopefully a series of videos about this sorry looking but rather magnificent machine. I have this plan to talk a little bit about the Alpha 75 in general, why I have wanted one for so long, and what I'm planning on doing with this one. We'll see if I have the patience for that. But first, the backstory. Right, up until a few years ago, if you were to type in Alfa Romeo 3-litre V6 into Google, and there's obviously loads of content coming out now from YouTube and lots of different sources, but back in the day there was barely any information on the Alpha 75. And one of the first few results within the Google search was this Flickr page and this car. And whenever I would search for an Alpha 75, I'd always come back to this picture, and I found it fascinating. I still find it fascinating for a number of reasons. So this photo is taken by this person, Alan Gold, and he says, without doubt, the biggest surprise I've had for some time. I'd gone through to my local retail park for some shopping today and was about to drive home when I looked round and spotted this. I seriously couldn't believe my eyes. Did take a photo from the back, but it came out blurred. Personally, I think it's bonkers for something as fragile as this to be out on a horribly wet Hogmanay when the roads are filthy and being gritted every day, but that's the owner's choice. Happy New Year to everyone on Flickr. So, a few things to dissect there. 5 things, in fact. First thing is that this is obviously an uber rare car. In my 39 years, I've never seen one on the road. I've only ever seen them in car shows. So that's cool. Number 2 is that it's being driven on salted, gritted roads, as Alan points out. I mean, these cars have a reputation to rust. Italian cars in general have a reputation to rust, but maybe that's not so true, as we'll find out. Number 3, it's weird that it's in an Argos car park. So it'll be some kind of retail car park somewhere. 4 is that Alan references Hogmanay. So he's obviously Scottish. So it's most likely that this car is in Scotland and the photo is taken in Scotland. And number 5 is that it is December 31st, 2017, which is almost exactly 5 years to the day today. How about that? And it gets better. The coolest thing about this page is all the comments. So let's have a look at some of them. So first, Dave says, some spot, especially in the middle of winter. Happy New Year to you too, Alan. Astonishing, this person, Greg says. Much respect to the owner and well done for getting the spot. One of the great things about this hobby is how a spot of this quality can creep up on you at any time. I mean, it's true. Like if this could have been a Lambo, some other new cool car, but they were just pale in comparison to finding something like this, and that's what's so cool about this hobby. And I guess these people are of a similar mindset. So what else? Super nice catch, especially on that side of the pond. This person's American. This must be a rarity, but to clear things up, this isn't a fragile car. How interesting. Maybe these are more resilient than I thought. Someone else makes a similar comment. You'd be amazed to see how many of these still drive around in countries with worse conditions in the UK. And again, not what you'd expect. Okay, one more pic. I don't know what these wheels are. I think they're Ballers, which is a replica of, I think they're replicas of like TE 37s. Yeah, that's what it is. So it looks really cool on these JDM cars. I may hold on to it and see if I can put them on my Silica, but you can see that looks a lot like that. But otherwise, it looks in decent shape. And look, this is a really rare car. If we just take a quick look at how many left, I was doing it earlier, but we can see there are 23 75s. I think that's supposed to say V6 instead of 6V. So 23 75s, 4 Veloces, which is the same thing with a body kit, and 5 Cloverleafs. So this is one of the Cloverleafs. I think Alan, the photographer, knew that because it had a little Cloverleaf badge on the back of it, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's what, 23, 27, 32 cars on the road as of 2022. And if we click into the Cloverleaf, you can see that of the 5, there are we don't have the data for Q3 and Q4, but there were 5 on the road in Q2, and there are 18 stored. And I guess, we'll see how many of those will be repairable, and how many of those will end up in the scrapyard. But the point is, it's a very rare car. Unbelievably, earlier this year, March 2022, I get an eBay alert and I see the very same car. I recognize it because of the ghastly alloys. Unfortunately, I didn't see the eBay ad until a few days after it was posted, and by the time I got in touch with the seller, it had already been sold. So I thought that was it. I was pretty upset, especially because I felt like I knew this car. Whenever I miss out on something, especially when it's a car, I usually redouble my efforts to try and find what I'm looking for. So I spent even more time on eBay and Car and Classic and other websites. And then, incredibly, the car comes up for sale again. Turns out the seller had another 75. He had his eye on a 635 BMW, and he was willing to let this go. So I bought it sight unseen, and as you can see from these photos, it doesn't look terrible underneath. It's got some kind of aftermarket exhaust, which looks half decent. The arches are hiding quite a lot of rust, but the engine bay looks okay. With a bit of TLC, I think it'll come up quite well. Now, these are the seats that were originally in the Alfa 75. I think they were optioned from the factory, I'm not sure. In any case, the seats are the reason the previous owner purchased the car, so that he could put them into his own. He did, however, source a replacement set, which aren't exactly the same. You can see they have that mesh headrest. And they also flip down, so they're obviously for some coupe originally, and not specific to this car. But they'll do for now. Here, let's have a look at what it sounds like. So this is the video the seller sent me after I bought the car. I was pretty happy that I could see it running, to be honest. And the reason he was selling it is simply because he wanted the super rare Recaro interior, which he stripped out of this car and put into his own. So we have a running car. That's one thing. Here you can see just how bad the paint, all the lacquer is. It's all coming off, and you can see the door cards are missing. So there's definitely work to do, and the engine bay is well past its best, but from these videos I can't really see too much rust. That's his interior that's in my car now, along with lots of other bits and pieces. Right, so this is the car getting picked up and taken to K Performance Automotive. So this is run by a guy named Munir, who's a bit of a genius. He just finished the manual conversion on my E61 M5, and so I sent him this car and said, look, see if you can get it working. And now here's the MOT list that we're working through, and I've been really trying to think about, what is my plan with this car? Am I going to do a full restoration? Am I just going to try and get it through an MOT? Actually, let's park that for 1 second and let's have a closer look at the MOT history. Right, so the MOT is obviously expired. Expired on September 2019. Last time it was tested was on the 19th of October last year. 137,000 miles, and these are all the reasons that it failed for. We're going to come back to that, but just check this out. So 137,000 miles in 2021, and 134,000 miles in 2012. So, in 10 years, this car has done just over 3,000 miles, which is interesting. We know that the car was in Scotland from that Flikr image that we saw earlier in the video. But this is somewhere, I'm not sure where this is. I think it's somewhere in Hertfordshire. So this car, lived in Hertfordshire, it seems, Coat in Hitchin, yeah. So there are a few different services and MOTs that take place in this sort of area. And then after that, where does it go? Let's have a look. So 2012, then it isn't tested until 2015. 2015, it fails for whatever reason, Coat. All right, then we go to 2016. So somewhere between 2015 and 2016, it goes to Royden. Oh, Royden's still in Hertfordshire. Hang on. Falkirk, this one. 2017, so between 2016 and 2017, it goes to Scotland. And it's somewhere east of Edinburgh, I think. Yeah, so there's Edinburgh. Right, it's kind of, it's actually between Edinburgh and Glasgow. So in this sort of area is where all the MOTs take place. So let's just have a look at, so that's Falkirk. Hang on, that's weird. Back in Royden in 2018. I didn't spot that before. Yeah, it's back in Hertfordshire. So it's the same owner. So someone has gone, lives between Scotland and Hertfordshire for some reason. So Broxburn, I think, is somewhere, I think that one is back in Scotland again. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, it's back in the Edinburgh area. So kind of Falkirk, Broxburn. And it could be different area, different owners, but maybe it seems like someone is between the London area and the... I'll have to check to see if I can find out from the ownership history. But okay, here's the most recent one. And it fails on a lot of different things. And I'm not going to deal with everything. And that's because my plan is to do a full underside restoration. So all I'm planning to do at this point is make sure the car is complete. And here's how the car looked when we got it into the workshop. So you can see all of that paint and lacquer coming off on the near side rear wing. He doesn't open the door here, but it is a little bit creaky. You can see pretty much all of the rubber has perished, especially around the seals. You can see that rust creeping in around the top of the windshield there. It's probably quite hard and brittle. I'm not looking forward to trying to get another windshield seal. Here's a look underneath. Look, bear in mind this is a Scotland car. I don't know what's happened there. That looks like where the tow hooks meet the chassis rails. Someone's had a go at welding that. It does not look good. But whenever I can see the floor of the car, and that's the subframe there, it looks like, it's not rusty. Probably because there's been oil leaking all over it. But, here along the seal looks pretty straight. That is a hole in the floor. And probably not great that it's being jacked up there. I don't know what that is, but yes, we've got some corrosion in the floor of the car that we're going to have to cut out. But those box sections look okay. The floor there looks reasonably okay. I don't know what these things are called. Are they pinch welds, or it's basically where the steel, it looks like there are layers of sheet metal that start to fray at the edges. So that looks like it's going to have to be remade. That's the gearbox, I'm guessing. It's at the back of the car. You have to forgive me, I don't really know my way around the Alfa 75 just yet. But it looks wet to me, so there's obviously some kind of leak. I think these fittings you know, again, it's not that bad. This is what I'm trying to tell myself. I'm sure this is going to look horrendous when it all comes off and comes apart, but I have definitely seen worse. All of these suspension components are going to get refreshed. So I think the idea is, to begin with, this is my current plan, it changes day by day. Oof, it's a pretty nasty hole down, and it looks like there's something stuck in there as well. What is that? Is that the boot floor? It looks like the boot floor. It looks like the spare wheel well, actually. I might remove the spare wheel well, actually, just to reduce a bit of weight. Here's the interior. It's not bolted in. You can kind of hear how creaky that is. The door handles don't look great. So annoyed that we've got the standard interior in. The car was optioned from new with the Recaros, but we're going to have a go at getting those in. These are all the, well, those are Recaros actually. I've got the cloth. The previous owner gave me the cloth to retrim that fabric to match the front Recaros. But yeah, the game plan is to try to get this interior looking half decent. There's lots of bits and pieces missing and broken. So we're going to start to deal with these one by one and get the car, you know, complete and together. Doppio strato, Alfa 130. That must be the paint code. This is a wiper motor that's broken. I need to fix that. And now I've just taken a bunch of photos just to remind myself of the pieces that are missing that I need to collect. This was a tweeter cover, turned out to be inside the car. That's again a cigarette lighter that's missing. That's the door locking mechanism thing. I don't ever know what they're called. Door handles are broken all the way around, so we're going to try and find those. Interior definitely could do with a nice vacuum, but otherwise, from the photos, it looks half decent. These seats, this is the first thing we need to try to get in. The seats that we bought, that the owner gave me, they're not actually Alfa Romeo 75 seats. I think they're Recaro LSCs, but they don't fit this car. So, you know, the holes underneath those seats are in the wrong place. So we had to fabricate, Manera K Performance anyway, had to fabricate some brackets to go underneath the car. And this is what it looks like with the Recaros fitted. I have to say, it looks pretty good. And these are the new fogs. The old ones were cracked. So that's one extra item off the MOT list. Interior door handles are in place now. And the interior is definitely in much better shape. I mean, I love it. I'm going to drive it around exactly as it is. It's going to be completely restored underneath. Love that badge. 75 3.0 V6. Yeah, I'm going to keep the car looking exactly as it does on the outside, and then we're going to do a full restoration on the inside. And believe it or not, I haven't actually taken delivery of the car, so it's getting delivered to me from K Performance probably over the next week or so, at which point I think it's going to sit with me, and then I'm going to make a plan for the next stage of this car's restoration. So stay tuned for episode 2.